Was I not responding well? Because I've been off all day. Like,
no, it's good. It's just I wanted to double check.
okay.
Yeah. Well, it says we're live streaming.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I got 1 minute left. So I guess I'll just sit here. I'm really good at this, right?
Does this get recorded too?
Yeah.
Awesome.
No. Sometimes I get distracted by my own face because I'm like, oh, I look like that. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I could look to see if anyone's looking. Maybe. Oh, hey, I got notified that I'm on air.
Oh yeah. I knew this would be fun.
I'm so good at this. Yeah. I've never been early before. I've only been late, so I actually don't know if I should start. Oh, it's 1. Okay.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Start. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So welcome. I am so excited. Also, because I like you and I'm a fan. And, we've known each other for a little bit, so that's good. Working on that whole networking thing.
Yeah.
So I was hoping you could introduce yourself and maybe describe what you do and what you love.
Okay. I'm Robert Bean, and I've been an exhibiting working artist for over 20 years at this point. I started really exhibiting professionally in the mid-90s, and I am born and raised in Arkansas. I've lived here almost all of my life. I currently also work as a figure drawing instructor at UALR, and I am the department chair of painting and drawing at the Wingate Art School at the Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts. So I do more than just make art. I also teach a lot. I've done a lot of things in my career that would be kind of entrepreneurial, like I used to run exhibition programs at like Mugs Cafe and the Arkansas Capital Corporation Group, where we took part in like Second Friday Art Night and Third Friday Art Night, stuff like that. So I've done a bunch of different things. It's been a lot of fun so far.
Okay, so the work behind you, what is that?
That painting that's behind me?
Yep.
That is a recent piece. It's called We Are All Artificial, Leslie's Story. So one of the things that I've been really intrigued by lately is how people present themselves on like social media and stuff like that. And I kind of gotten this idea of a lot of what we're putting out there. I don't know how genuine it all is, and how we present ourselves to ourselves too, where we'll try, like, I've known a lot of people, and I've been this way before, where we will like tell ourselves, I really like books or something, but then we don't really read them that much or that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of got into that idea of exactly what affectations do we put around us. And so the whole series is going to be that kind of thing, where I'll make each painting will focus on like a person. They'll be fictional characters basically that are pulled from real life things that I've come across. And then I'll create this kind of narrative around it. So
what's the narrative to the one behind you?
It's actually really kind of, let's see if I can scoot out of the way a little bit so you can see it a little better. I can share a screen later to show it to you, but it's the idea of someone who's not entirely kind of sure of their identity. They're trying a bunch of different things. So it's kind of hard to see in that because there's a lot of details. So I have a lot of little symbols. There's like books. There's emoticons floating through the space. There are comic book style word blocks, but then I've wiped out all the text, so you can't really see all of it. That kind of reinvention. So there's like a chameleon hiding in the plant. There's a half-smoked cigarette in one space, stuff like that. So I love to put little symbols in my work where that kind of ask the viewer to decipher it in some way and put it together and see if they can figure out the story. So
Well, it's really actually interesting that you're focusing on identity and that chameleon aspect. Mostly because I've been reading a lot about different exhibits and gallery shows, and identity seems to be playing a big factor in the trends for pretty much all visual arts that I've looked at recently, like exhibits and metamorphosis, that kind of thing. It all kind of ties into or roots or heritage or some kind of identity sort of theme. Do you know why? Like, what's going on?
I don't know exactly what has pushed all of that, other than I think, well, I know the past couple of years with everyone being stuck and quarantined and all that, there's been, I think a lot of people have really taken a good look at themselves and asked questions about what they really want and that sort of thing. But beyond that, I look at it as social media is something that has sped this up, because social media is ravenous. It has to have content constantly. And so when people are, like, as an artist, I have to post stuff all the time. And at some point you're like, am I spinning wheels? What am I talking about? In that idea of everyone is their own brand. I think that's a big part of it. If you are someone who is using social media, if you're trying to leverage it, you're turning yourself often into a brand. Especially like an artist. I have to, people want to know what I do, what's it like in my studio? What's it like, being this kind of person? And then like, you'll have, people who are writers will share the same kind of thing. Actors will share the same kind of thing. You have, business people are sharing business stuff and talking about what it's like to be that when they're on, social media. So I think a lot of it is we've gotten a little bit self-involved over the past 10 years. And artists like to take something like that and run with it. So I think that's why you're seeing all these exhibits now where, and some were already doing it, but you're right, there's a lot more of it now, where they're like, well, what is my identity and where did that identity come from? And is it, is there a history there? Is there a cultural heritage I'm talking about? Is it something very individual? All those kinds of things. It's a big mash of stuff going on, I think.
Which kind of brings me back to this idea that, so when we're creating our artist statements, because you're going to be leading a workshop soon for us virtually. So anybody who wants to go, it's free. You can just go to our Facebook page and register, the Arkansas Arts Council. You don't even actually have to be from Arkansas. So like, it's just there and free. I'm not supposed to really actually, okay, don't tell anybody, it's a secret.
Yeah.
Anyway, this idea that we're creating like a brand, how are we putting that into our artist statement? And also, when we are creating a brand, it sounds so buzzword to me. Like artists occasionally will introduce themselves and they just fill their elevator speech with this jargon, like, oh, I'm a multimedia artist and I'm a connector, or I'm a creative placemaker who wants to create spaces and in the creative economy for underrepresented voices, or, like anything like that. It is just like a whole lot of buzzwords. One person even used synergy. That was a throwback. I was like,
wow.
Is that helpful? Should we be incorporating that kind of stuff into our elevator pitches, into our artist statements? And how much of our identity I'm asking just a bunch of questions here, but like, how much of our identity should I be putting in there when I'm building my brand and have my artist statement? Like,
well, I think the first thing you have to look at with what you're talking about is how much of your identity is your brand and how much of your identity is something else. Like, building that public persona, you have to make a decision of, what do I hold back? What do I keep that's just mine, or, my family, friends, that sort of thing. And how much of what you're doing is genuine and how much of it is about your work. And I think that when you look at like the artist statement, that should be something that's kind of genuine, and it comes from who you are as an artist and the body of work you're doing. One of the things I talk about, that I'm going to talk about in the workshop next week, is how there isn't a one fit artist statement. You really should be thinking about writing multiples of them. It shouldn't be that I have an artist statement. It should be I have concepts and I have to tailor the statements to fit. A friend of mine, an artist, Diane Harper, posted a question a while back on Facebook where she was talking about artist manifestos and what's the difference. And to me, the difference is that a manifesto is that overall kind of career spanning focus that an artist has, where a statement is more about a moment within that. So when I write statements, I'm writing statements that are for a specific exhibition or a specific body of work. And so they change a little bit from, venue to venue or experience to experience. And so to me, that idea of branding, like you're talking about, that elevator speech, right? Where you pitch who you are as an artist. Mm-hmm. I don't like to use those words you're talking about. And I try to discourage the use of in fact, synergy is one of those. I'm really surprised you've heard that one. But a lot of those other terms that like making a creative space and things like that, those aren't descriptive. Mm-hmm. They don't tell anyone anything. And so I think you have to work a little harder than that to come up with words that are more descriptive of what you're doing. That, there's nothing wrong with describing the look and feel of something. If you're an artist that uses like a lot of blue, why? Have that be in the statement and talk about it. And, talk about why, if you going back to your earlier example of histories, and identity, well, why are you using those things? Is there a story from your past that informed it? Well, those are the things that should go into a statement instead of trying to say like, I'm creating a synergistic creative, space or whatever. Okay. That does nothing for me, So yeah, that's the kind of stuff we'll talk about next week, is how do you make it something that sounds genuine and sounds like you.
And that kind of brings me to the idea of authenticity. I hear that a lot too. People are like, be authentic. And, anymore, the more I look at things, the less I know whether or what that is. Anymore, it seems like truth isn't actually as important as perception. Mm-hmm. So what exactly are we doing when we're be authentic? Like when
we're being authentic?
Yeah. The girl behind you would be like, are we actually authentic? Like even on like social media or when we meet people, or are we just trying on different human suits?
Well, I think part of that is how, in some ways, how brave are you to put yourself out there, right? And that's something that also you learn about if you go through art programs or, when you learn to become an artist, is how much of yourself goes into what you're doing and how much of yourself gets expressed. And it can be really scary to do that. And there are parts about who you are that, that can be really nice things to share, and don't be afraid of them. One of the things that, and I talk about this with my students all the time, I got into art not because of fine art. It wasn't because of museums. It wasn't because of galleries. It was because of comic books. That's what got me drawing when I was a kid. I loved comics. And, that has stayed a part of what I do as an artist. Even, today it's stylized. You look at that piece behind me, it's stylized. It looks, I even used comic book tropes in it, to make it work. So the idea that, I'm going to change who I am to appear like, I'm not going to put on a beret and go paint impressionistic paintings or something really goofy, that's inauthentic. That people, believe it or not, think that is the way an artist is. I've had people ask me, do you wear a beret? And I'm like, no.
Oh, please do it. And let me take a picture of you doing it. I'll videotape. I'll socially distance video. It's not videotape anymore. God, that's showing my age. But yeah, I'll just stand far, but you can have the whole thing.
Put a little beret on.
Yes, please.
So, I think it's that kind of are you genuinely interested in the stuff you create? And if you are, why are you genuinely interested in it? And, where does it come from? I grew up on comics and role-playing games, and you can see the role-playing games on my bookshelf behind me. And I still look at that stuff. I still love it. I love the illustration in it. And even though my work doesn't always, I'm not illustrating role-playing games all the time or doing things like that, that approach that I got as a kid still informs what I do. And so those things will end up in my statements. Those things will end up, being that part of who I am, that kind of authentic part of who I am as an artist.
I really like that. What if you're the villain? Can you do that?
Can I be the villain?
Yeah, can I write an artist statement where I'm the villain and that
sure
sell that?
if it's authentic. If you think you're the villain, if you really think you are, go for it. Yeah.
What if I just want to be the villain?
Well, you could talk about that.
Okay.
That could be part of the statement too.
I can't wait to read my own statements later. Anyway, oh, which reminds me, the fellowships are on graphic writing people or graphic novel narrative. Mm-hmm. So putting that out there, people apply, you apply.
Oh, that's exciting. I'm glad you guys added that category. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. A lot of younger artists seem to be pretty excited about it. So yeah, I consider this younger. Let's see. Well, did you want to show us any of your art or talk more about your process or what your big projects and plans are?
I'm actually working on several things. Part of the problem I have is I have too many things I want to do. And so I end up juggling a lot of projects, but I've had like the painting that's behind me, that's the first of a series, and I've planned about 8 or 9 of them. I just haven't had a chance to get the canvases and start them. But that would be probably, by the time it's done, there'll be about 20 of them in the series, and it would hang all together as one show. And the other stuff, I've in the past couple of years, one thing that happened with me and being quarantined and stuck is I really went back to those roots I was talking about, where I've gotten back into comics, and I started working on not comics exactly, but some illustrated book projects where I guess part of them will be kind of like a traditional graphic novel. Others will be, I might play with the format of how the text and the images work together and stuff. So I can show you kind of what's happened with my work in the past couple of years. I think I can share my screen, can I?
Yeah. Oh, maybe not.
Nope.
Oh, okay. I'll work on that. I'll work on it. Okay.
Okay. I'll share this screen now. So you should be able to see some of the artwork. So this is stuff I've done over the past few years, and you can see it looks very illustration heavy. And some of these are designed to be for, some kind of like Not Like You, Simple Melodies. Those are both splash pages for a kind of short story graphic novel collection I'm working on.
This kind of, some of these remind me of what is it, Alphonse
Mucha. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that art.
I'm glad you can say that. Yeah.
I was putting I'm pulling some of his stylizations and trying to put a new twist on it. Yeah. So
look at me knowing stuff.
This is that painting you were asking about. We can look at a bigger version of it. That's probably a little cleaner. So you can see how much stuff's going on in it.
Yeah.
A lot of things happening.
Why is she in red?
Because I wanted that to be like the emphasis, but that's probably the most genuine part of what's happening. So that's why I shaded down and shifted to like chromatic grays and stuff on the other parts. I was playing with the idea of what's genuine and what's not. So
it's like playing with the idea of what's real and what's not.
Yeah. And that's some of it. I mean, part of it is, how much of this is an imagination, is coming from imagination. How much of it is real? I mean, I'm using, obviously there's these like banners that are kind of floating through. That's not real. There's not giant emoticons floating around people. So I'm playing with some of those things where, I don't know, maybe there are giant emoticons floating around you, but it's.
Did you just see my face? I forgot.
Yeah, I did. That's why I said that. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, yeah, no, well, I mean, I do have a tendency to imagine either that kind of thing or people turn into Muppets like mid-conversation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got, I'm doing stuff. I mean, that's acrylic, but I also like to make my stuff look kind of the same. Whether it's, like this is graphite and ink, but it has a very similar feel to, this piece, which is acrylic paint. So I like to make stuff work the way I want it to work and make it look not like people expect. Even with like a thing I really got into with with the quarantine was figure drawing moved online. And so I joined like Brooklyn Figure Drawing. I was going to their sessions every Tuesday for a long time. I started teaching it online, figuring out how to do it. And so, I started taking like some of the gestures I would like. This piece is just taking, some of those gestures or quick poses and turning it into something. So I like to play with that kind of thing too and see what I can make out of it. So that's kind of the stuff I'm doing right now and where my work is going. I don't really, in a weird way, it's like I kind of hit a point too where I've done a lot of shows, and I'm getting a little more choosy now about what I want to do. I'm not applying to stuff all the time. I'm, if I want to do an exhibition, I really want to do it. And it's also why I've turned back to illustration a little bit. I want to do some of those projects that I dreamed of as a kid that just I haven't done, and put books together and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm doing a lot of that stuff too.
That's really cool. So I kind of had that during quarantine too, where I kind of realized I didn't want to do I don't have to take every commission. I don't have to do this or that. I can just concentrate on other things.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the only benefit of having to stay at home and think about yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, part of it is, I think, getting older, and, I'm getting a little bit older. And so I'm deciding, of these things I've always dreamed about doing, which ones do I want to do? I don't have a whole lot of time ahead of me like I used to. And so.
Well, now you're giving me like a complex. So
now
thanks.
I'm panicking you. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like,
but it's, what is it that I really want to do with my work at this point? And, when I was in my 20s and I'm trying to get started, I would jump on any opportunity for a show because I needed it. I needed it on my resume. I needed to get out there and show my work, and I needed to find clients and all that kind of stuff. And, I now have 20 years of that. And so I don't know that I necessarily need to do every show that comes my way. In fact, I've turned down more than I've probably accepted over the past few years. So when I do it, it's because there's a challenge for me. It's something I haven't done before, or I think it's a really cool idea. Diane Harper and I, several years back, we were just like, well, why don't we just make up what we want to do and do it? Like, what's stopping us? And we, and so we started doing that. She and I would come up with shows together. One of my favorite ones that we did a few years back was called Ultraviolet.
I went to that.
Yeah, it was so much fun. We just decided, wouldn't it be cool to have a bunch of artists in a group show that did works that are reactive to UV light and glow under a black light? And Matthew Castellano was really awesome to work with us, and we used his space at the time. And he had work in it. A bunch of great artists had work in it, and we put black lights in the gallery lights. It was so much fun. It was very different. Yeah.
It was like going to a rave, except I've never been to a rave, and there were squirrels.
Yeah, there were squirrels. But that was what, that's the kind of stuff that gets me now. Is there something like that? Or is there something that is bigger than I've ever tried before? I did a triptych a few years back at Gallery 26 that was the first triptych in my Bulletproof series. It was these like 8-foot tall drawings. And it showed kind of the evolution of this female character. And that's another project that has been, on the back burner, then on the front burner, then on the back burner. And I want to do another probably 10 or so triptychs that size that explore the evolution of a person. And so I work on that from time to time. And one day I would love to have a room full of those, giant room, full of these 8-foot tall drawings. And I think it would be really cool to see. So it's stuff like that. Like, I'm like, would this be really cool to see? Would it be really fun to do this? And that's what I want to get out of it. So that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm picking the stuff I want to do.
That's really neat. Makes me want to go home and paint.
Good. I'm glad.
Inspirational, or make monsters. I haven't decided, because you live with a monster maker.
I do. Yes. Chris is the Sock Monster Problems monster maker. Yeah.
Those are pretty awesome.
They
Well,
are.
do you have any website material you want to share or let people know about, or like
Well,
how can people follow your adventures? Or
yeah. I actually have, you can follow me on Instagram at RB Fine Art. You can find me on there. I use RB Fine Art. That's my business name. So I use that for almost all my social media stuff. So if you look for RB Fine Art, you can find that. I also recently started a Patreon where I share stuff. In fact, I'll share the screen again and show you kind of what some of that looks like, so you can kind of see. So like I do these posts and then I put it together for people at a certain tier. I do this like combined magazine layout at the end of every month where you get to see like writings and behind this, like I do makerspace where I talk about what I'm working on and stuff, take photos and show process. And then I used to do these essays called Art Thoughts for Friday on Facebook, and I've moved them to Patreon. And so they get laid out in this kind of magazine style. And then I'll do stuff like I did figure drawing kits. I have a kit for like graphite. I have a kit for charcoal and a kit for ink. And then I show you what that is and talk about like what I have in it, stuff like that. So, and then I'll have towards the end of it, I do book reviews of art books that I really like.
You have a writing background too, right?
I like to write. I'm about probably a year short of a creative writing degree on top of my art degree. So I don't know, maybe one day I'll finish that. But yeah, I incorporate a lot of writing into what I do. So if you join the Patreon, basically you get, depending on what tier you're at, you'll get these posts about like what I'm making, these artist essays, the tools I use and all that. And then if you're at the highest tier, you get this magazine every month in a PDF format. And I'm also doing some independent classes right now. So you can find those through my website. If you go to rbfineart.com, you can find, I'm doing a class on using tone and line. These are all Zoom based too. So you can take these online and they'll start February 28th and go for about 4 weeks. And then I'm doing one on figure drawing, action and narrative, which will use a model. So you have to be 18 or over to take that. But those should be fun. I'm looking forward to those. Yeah.
Sorry, somebody walked by my window and then they went, and I was like, so which made me look like I wasn't paying attention, but I was a little, okay. Anyway. Well, what advice would you have for people, I guess, that are starting out, or even people who got set back from COVID? I've noticed I have a lot of creative friends that just sort of stopped creating during like the whole last 2 years and are trying to pick back up again. I think it's a really hard mental health issue. Like some people are like, am I even actually an artist? Like I didn't make anything and I have all these friends that made something, so.
I know that's hard. That's something social media it's a curse and a blessing, right? I mean, it's really cool because you get to see all these things, but at the same time, it's really awful because you get to see all these things. So you see everything that everyone else has done and it makes you feel really bad about yourself because you haven't done enough. So I get that. I have to go through periods where I kind of turn it off and just go in the studio and have fun with it again and that sort of thing. So if you're someone that's kind of struggling with not making, you have to find a way to do that, find a way to set aside time and not put pressure on yourself. I think that one of the problems we often have with that is that it gets hard when it's your job because you have deadlines and you have all these other things, and that kind of creative freedom can go away. So you have to find the time to play. And what I tell students a lot is that's the sketchbook. Grab a sketchbook and go somewhere and just play in it, draw in it, play around with it, and not worry about sketchbook. Yeah.
Oh, look how blurry it is.
But that I think is the thing that turn to something like that where you're like, there's no pressure that these things ever have to be seen. I don't feel like I've got to have them ready for a show. I don't have to do any of that. I just want to draw, or I want to paint, or I want to do something and do those things and not worry about it. If you've been making though, and you're not sure how to get back into showing, I know that's hit a lot of artists too. It's like, well, all the venues closed for a while. And, I'm now, a lot of times when if you're getting a show, it's 2 years from the date you're told you're going to have the show. You get put in that queue, and it takes a while to get to you. So another thing you can do is, be really proactive, make your own shows up. As we start to get to where everyone can be around everyone again, people are going to want to be around people and like have people over. So find someone that has a nice house and say, can I put an art show on in your house?
Oh, that's cool.
Stuff like that. Make a house show, do something like that, and invite the people you want to invite, and find a simple way to get back into the groove of it. Especially if you're a young artist, doing stuff like house shows, finding family members and friends to host a show. That's a line on your resume. It's not necessarily that a curator has put a stamp of approval, but it shows that you're working. So, and you might actually sell something, and you might have a good time. So I don't see the downside to doing it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I guess not.
Nope.
You even get to pick out the music.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, is there anything I should have asked you that I haven't?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's like a question. It's a catch-all question. You'd be surprised though. From my reporter days, I used to end with that all the time, and people will just tell you that most off the cuff thing, like they just start confessing. So I just stick with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you don't want to make a confession?
It's all good. It's fine.
You do you still host art sessions, like the models on, what was it, Tuesdays? Do you still do that?
The drop-in figure drawing.
Yeah.
That was through the former Arkansas Art Center, now the AMFA, the Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts. And those sessions are not happening right now because we're in the transition of moving back into the renovated building. So whenever that opens back up, we'll resume those drop-in sessions, but it'll be whenever that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but you are doing one that you were?
It's really intended for students.
Oh, okay. Well, what if people wanted your like to hire you to teach them something? Can they just?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They can contact me. If someone is interested in private lessons, or they want like a 1-day workshop, or I do that stuff all the time. So I've had like I did one recently for the Arkansas Pastel Society.
Oh, that's cool.
So if there's artist groups that are interested, yeah, I'm happy to come in and do something like that. They just have to reach out to me and get a hold of me, and they can find my contact info by going to my website at rbfineart.com. And it'll, I have how to contact me. There's even a form you can fill out to contact me there.
So I'm a little surprised with the pastels. You work in pastels too?
About every 5 years. I really like pastels, but they're really, I don't fix them. I don't spray them. And so they're really delicate. And so what'll happen is every 5-6 years, I'll be like, I haven't used those in a while. And I'll get really excited. And then I'll do like a bunch of pieces. And then I realize how messy it is and how delicate they are. And I'll be like, never again. And I'll put them away. And then I'll come back 5-6 years later and be like, I got to do them again. And I'll pull them out. So I really like pastels because they're so vibrant. And to me, I liked them originally because they bridged painting and drawing. So I could get the vibrancy of painting, but I was doing it in a drawing style of application. So yeah, I do them every once in a while, but yeah.
And you do marker pen?
I do a lot of ink. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite medium? Like, ooh, I really like this.
I prefer drawing mediums because I like the act of drawing. So that one of the things I like about that painting behind me is that that's a combination of golden acrylics with brushwork and Posca markers. So that's why it looks really linear as that drawn style, as I was using paint markers to, kind of resolve what I was doing with the brush and give it that hard edge. So depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing figure drawing sessions, then I tend to prefer things like charcoal and ink pens. If I'm doing something really detailed like that illustration work, then I'm probably going to use things like technical artist pens and like carbon pencils and stuff like that. Just kind of depends. I tend to tailor the medium to the project rather than saying I've got one favorite medium. I try to think what's the best medium to express this, and then that's what I'll use.
It's cool. You should be an inspirational speaker. You need a TED Talk.
Maybe I'll do that one day.
Okay. Well, I can't think of anything else. Do you want to add anything, or have I covered all the spots? Or
I think you've kind of covered it. I hope to see a lot of people next Thursday. Hope
Me
you guys
too.
take the artist statement workshop.
Yep.
And I want to say hi to the Pottery Works people if you guys are watching. So
hi, pottery people. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Thank you for the workshop. And I'm really excited to be able to work with you and offer these kind of opportunities through the Arts Council. So thank you
guys. You guys do a great job there. I'm glad we have you guys around.
We hope to be there for a lot longer. We're going to fight the good fight.
Good, I'm glad to hear it.
Okay. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.